So many of us are seeking a deeper understanding of the physical and unseen world around us, while trying to connect and understand ourselves. Seeking enlightenment, understanding of the paranormal, holistic options, whole body healing, the metaphysical, and finding a personal connection to a higher consciousness. Together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Soul Flight. I'm happy to have you here. As you can see, I am back into my seasonal office, so I was very excited to get that set up and going with the nicer, warmer days that have been coming up here in Wisconsin. It's been a while. I feel like it's just, we kind of have been hit or miss with guests and with things coming up and having the show live. So I'm really excited tonight, but we almost weren't able to bring you tonight's show, but we were lucky enough to get one of the hosts from the Red Road Paranormal. Rezneck is going to be joining us. And unfortunately, Miss Kristina Bloom had some things going on, but I'm looking to get them rescheduled for September once we start coming back with some new shows. Before we get started, I'm not going to do my postcards from Spirit today because I didn't bring them out in my space with me today, but I am going to kind of pull a card and just see where everybody's at. What message does Spirit have for everybody today before we get started? So if there's anything that you've been thinking about, just kind of putting out there, wanting to know, this is what they have to say. And it's interesting. The card that I pulled is love, but I pulled it inverted. It's kind of hard to see on here. There, you can kind of see it there. And this is the Sacred Forest Oracle deck. When I see that inverted, it really makes me think about love in three different ways. The love that we allow ourselves to receive, the love that we give others, and then also, fostering that ego. Because there are parts of love, like everybody thinks about ego and they think, oh, we got to completely get rid of it. No, there's really good parts of ego, but it's where are we putting our time? Where are we investing it? And it's been interesting. The last couple of days, the conversations I've had with people have really resolved around ego, that self-love, and who they're committing their time to. And I feel like this is a theme. We tend to put lots of people before ourselves. So we're not always giving ourselves the self-love, giving ourselves that attention, letting ourselves feel valued because we put everything else before us. But also, what are the actions of the people that we are investing in, right? The people that are around us. And lots of times people talk about red flags and we tend to see the best in people, and all these things come into play. But when it comes right down to it, when you are investing your time, with another person, not just even in relationships, romantically, just all across the board, what are their actions telling you about what your investment or how that investment that you're giving them is being valued? And it's really time to start paying attention to those key details. So, hi, Michael. It's so nice to see you. I'm glad you're here. So that's what Spirit's got going on. Love, lots of looking at that, looking at reflections, looking at relationships, keeping ourselves in check, but also understanding, hey, it's okay to have some of that ego and move through things. So just finding that healthy balance. All right. Woo, the big reveal. Please help me welcome Rezneck to the show.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Stephanie. How are we doing tonight?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing great. Loving it.
I'm so excited. And I didn't get to, I talked about Red Road Paranormal, but you're also a fellow team member of CAPS.
Yep.
So I always love sitting down and being able to talk to you. Before we get into, Red Road Paranormal, how you and Kristina kind of came together with that idea, can you tell everybody a little bit about you?
Well, I'm a member of the Stockbridge Muncie Tribe, Band of Mohicans, paranormal investigator, cryptid investigator, certified psychic medium, ordained minister. List goes on and on and on. So.
Right. I love it. How did you, so many people, I think they look at people that work in this field, and especially people that are multifaceted, and they want to know, like, how do you get into it, or how did you start getting involved in these groups? How did that evolution look for you?
Well, I grew up in haunted houses and around the spirit world and everything. Knowledge of that with both my parents being ministers of the spiritualist religion. So from a young age, I knew there was a spirit world.
Right.
I knew about paranormal activity before I even knew what the hell paranormal was.
Right.
So it was only a natural thing after all the years of watching the shows and calling BS on a lot of it, going,
Right.
I should go out and do that. And I came across a post from Barnaby one day, and I'm like, hey, let's talk. And he
Yeah.
brought me in through the academy.
No, that's, I think people need to kind of realize, I think they look at it like this big, I don't know, I don't want to say gimmick. Gimmick's not the right word, but they're like, well, how do you get into any of this? But really, it's just starting that path of understanding spirituality, maybe trying to answer questions like, hey, I've had this experience. What does this mean? Or why am I having this experience? There's not always a big mystical thing about how to get involved.
Yeah, there's no epiphany for me to want to get involved. It was natural to me.
Right.
Always hear about people having experiences. Well, yeah, I had experiences, but I never thought nothing about it.
Right.
So it was like I said before, everything was like that was second nature, and all the years of saying that, well, I could do that. Finally, I
Right.
decided I was going to.
And so how do you make the jump from, hey, this is fun, I like doing the investigations, like educating people and networking, to networking and starting your own podcast with Kristina?
Actually, it started out with me being on one of Barnaby's shows. Shortly
Right.
after I joined the team, he asked me to come on Monday Morning Monsters. Back when he had that show going.
Yes.
And after that, I believe it was you and a couple other people that reached out to me wanting to come on their shows, and it just started snowballing from there. And
Yeah.
now it happened to be on the Paranormal Room with Kristina and her son Logan, who is passed now.
Yes.
And me and Kristina became really good friends, and we're talking nonstop, after the show. And one day we were talking, and it was like, the Native American side of things really isn't represented in our community. There's
Yes.
very few of us that actually get out and do it and want to talk about it and spread knowledge. And through all the conversations, eventually Red Road Paranormal was born.
And I love that. And I know the meaning of walking the red road, but for people who might not understand that correlation within the title, can you explain that to them?
It's basically walking the higher path, not
Mhm.
not the easy way.
Right.
Trying to live as, how do I want to put it, as best as possible with not only the spirit world, but the real world, Mother Nature, and following the beliefs of the native ways.
Right.
It's kind of all balled together in one.
Yeah, no, and I like that. And it is a sacred space. And for me, I was interested, and maybe you can give me some perspective on this, as I started coming into this field, and not necessarily coming in, but being more open, networking, talking to more people. I also realized that there were not as many Indigenous people representing, and there's, which to me I found interesting, because it is such a strong tie to the beliefs of that culture, that I was surprised. I want to say that it wasn't talked about more openly with everybody.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Until I started, talking with people like you and with Kristina. Why do you think there's a smaller representation of people maybe out in the forefront within the Indigenous community?
When it comes to the way we're taught by a lot of our elders, a lot of the things that we talk about and look at and investigate, both in the paranormal and supernatural, are things that you don't talk about. You
Right.
talk about it, you bring it upon yourself, type
Correct.
of thing. So you still that old mentality where some of us are in the new generation where say, hey, let's talk about it, let's figure it out, let's investigate it. Don't just say it is what it is. Why is it what it is?
Right.
Looking more for the answers, and also to spread the knowledge of it.
Yes. And I have found, and this is not even the same comparison, but I think it'll kind of go to my point. Growing up, I grew up Pennsylvania German. And a lot of times the language was not necessarily passed down, because elders within the community used it as a way to talk around everybody, right? So if they didn't want you to, and a lot of times I can understand the gist of a conversation because you learn to listen and pick up on things, but I can't speak it fluently. And that is one of those languages that has started to die. And now there's, people who kind of, and this is how I'm seeing you, wanting to bring these stories to the forefront, wanting to bring traditions back to being more present within the community. But have you gotten any, like, what has your feedback been? Have you gotten a lot of support? Are people happy that you're bringing this more to the forefront, or have people been a little more reserved?
I think there's a lot out there that are being kind of reserved still. There hasn't been any backlash or anything about it. We've had good support,
Yes.
but it's hard to find tribal elders that are willing to come on and talk about these topics on our show.
Right.
And it's one of them things where they'll talk about it off camera, but the minute you want to put a camera in front, forget it.
Yes.
No, I'm good. I just wanted to share my experience.
Right.
And part of that kind of goes along with anybody that has a paranormal experience. A lot of people out there, they'll tell you about it, but they don't want to be acknowledged for it.
Right. Because there's that stigma.
Yeah.
And especially with dealing with, like, you do a lot of work with Barnaby with the cryptids. And I think a lot in that community, there is a lot of negative stigma to being public about those experiences.
Yeah. With cryptids, paranormal, UFOs, there's always that stigma following all of them communities. And unfortunately, we have to look past that. We have to get over that and actually accept it, that there's other things out there we don't necessarily know about. And we need to help each other. Some of these people that are going on with these experiences, because they don't talk about it, they bundle up on the inside.
Right.
And it kind of, it hurts them in the future.
It does.
And they really need to have that understanding, caring ear that'll listen to them, help them through it, or even just acknowledge the fact that they're not freaking nuts.
Right. Well, and hi, Jackie. Thanks for tuning in. I think that's a big part of it is, bringing that education, but making people feel validated, or at the very least, not judged for their experiences. And I don't, for me, I don't work as much within the cryptid. For me, it's mostly paranormal and connecting to spirit. And I think it depends where you're looking within the line. Some people accept cryptids more than they accept the spirit world, or vice versa. But I think no matter which side you are on, you have people that are extremely skeptical or still have that fear of coming out and saying, I don't really want to tell you this, because you might, even if we believe them, once word gets out, like, oh, I'm having them come do an investigation, or, oh, this happened. Well, it's that negative connotation that comes with it. How do we fix that?
Education and sensitivity.
Right.
We need to learn to listen to those around us, not judge, and be sensitive of what they're going through.
Right.
There might be an example where someone does need mental help, but if they don't listen, no one listens to them.
Right.
They'll never know. They'll never get the help they need. Where if another one might be inflicted by something dark with the paranormal, if no one takes time to listen to them, they're going to keep getting beat down by this.
Absolutely.
And it's going to wear them. It's going to wear them down. So, all of us as a whole need to learn to be a little more sensitive and be willing to care about our neighbor, our friends, our family.
It's long been a thought of mine, and you talk about, could it be a dark attachment? And I look back to when we really had a lot more mental institutions and state hospitals, and wonder, how many people that may have been institutionalized may have just been part of a spiritual warfare, might have been, the product of some of these happenings. But then I wonder how many of those people, that they're in these institutions because of an attachment, that the attachment actually at some point drives them to madness and then detaches, and how do you even prove that? How do you even work within that realm to help people?
Well, the Warrens tried to prove it in one of their cases. They actually made a movie about it,
Right.
and my personal beliefs is, you can have that attachment that will drive you nuts to the point where you literally lose all forms of reality. And
Right.
at that point in time, I don't know if the attachment leaves 100% or still keeps its little claws in it as it works onto
Right.
its next victim.
Right.
And when
Using the energy.
you take that person that has that attachment, you put them into an asylum where no one believes any of the patients that are
Right.
there. It's very easy for it to work its way and weave its way through the fabrics of that institution and all the patients
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely. And I know it's a very touchy subject, and I do a lot of advocacy for children, and I've worked with a child client who the parents went through all the steps, and actually I've helped a couple now where parents have institutionalized, parents have had them reviewed by clinical doctors, and they're not able to find a mental illness. And it's unfortunate that these things that we do, or the spiritual counseling, even bigger, the churches and those things, that it's really overlooked when it comes to mental illness, especially when you've checked all the boxes. Could there be other
Right.
holistic ways to help people?
Oh, most definitely. And I agree with the fact that, we don't look at the churches or investigation groups anymore for help when
Right.
they should be getting called in. If you called out to your local priest saying, "Hey, I'm having these issues with my child, doctors ain't finding nothing," let's be open-minded. Think outside the box. Talk to
Right.
the minister. Talk to a medium. Talk to a paranormal team if there's weird things happen around the house to go with it. You know, we don't know the grand scheme of things of what's going on outside of what we can see with our own eyes for most
Right.
people.
Right.
You know.
And I found, for me, when I grew up going to churches, and there were a few times where I had gone to the ministers and said, "Hey, I've had this going on," or "I'm experiencing this," and they were looking at me like I was crazy. And I remember just being so frustrated. And I wonder, with you being a spiritualist, kind of your standpoint on this, because I remember being so frustrated and saying, well, in the Bible, we talk about the Holy Ghost, we talk about all these things. We're talking about apparitions. Jesus came back 3 days after, he rose from the grave. But yet that stuff can't happen anymore. You can't have apparitions. You don't have evil. And so I always struggled when I did go to the church for help, and the people that I unfortunately connected with, who really seemed to, even though they had that strong belief in the Bible and what the Bible was saying, it was no longer possible in their standpoint. I don't know if I explained that clearly.
Yeah, basically in a spiritualist church, the way I was raised, if you would have came to the minister and talked about these things that you were going through, like you just gave the examples, you'd have been met with open arms. They would have
Right.
listened, and then they would have sat and tried to communicate with spirit to help you find your way in your journey on
Right.
this. And you wouldn't have been met, with closed ears. I
Yeah.
remember growing up and my parents going, watch who you say and what you talk to about
Yeah.
church and everything else, because at the time, the Baptists, especially the Southern Baptists, would consider us devil worshippers and
Right.
evil and
Right.
demonic because we communicate with spirit. And that's not the case.
Right.
Anyone that has known me for my entire life, I've always given the shirt off my back. I've always been one to help my fellow man, my
Right.
fellow brother. Them aren't things that someone that's evil or demonic does. That's someone that has the light within them and is there to be a helper.
It is. And I know, I think back, and I've had the same conversations with my children, and told them, watch what you share about our spiritual views. People are not going to agree until you're old enough to kind of defend your views. These are things that should just be personal. And
Yep.
I remember, this was quite a few years ago now. One of my children was going to like a CCD class. And so we again, had the conversation about being careful what you share, because what we believe doesn't always align completely with the Bible as we know it today. And so that my child had come back and had their CCD class, and it came to the next time they were supposed to go, and they said, I'm not going. And I said, well, you know the rules, like, we're not just going to quit. You need to go. I do think religion is important. I think having a good foundation for religion is important in a belief system. And they were adamant, and they were extremely upset. And so I had asked them, I said, well, what happened? Why are you this upset? And they said they had, at the last class, they had been talking to the person that was teaching it. And the topic of ghosts or spirits came up. And my child had shared that they see their grandfather. And the minute my child said that, I knew the next thing coming out of their mouth wasn't going to be support by the teacher. And the teacher had told my child that couldn't have happened. So either what they experienced was evil or whatever, but it definitely was not their grandfather, because that couldn't happen. And my child said they were just crushed. They laid their head on the table, and that was it. And to me, that's so sad, because you have now completely, which it's not true. None of that is stated like that in the Bible, but you completely took a child who was interested in religion and developing their own spirituality, and they completely pulled away from the church.
Yeah, you just crushed them, and you scarred them for life.
Yeah.
You know, I believe there's a lot of people with personal opinions that need to keep them to themselves, especially when they're working with children.
Yes.
You know,
Thank
because what happens here is that child's a sponge, and the more you feed it, the more it's going to grow and expand. Well, the minute you turn something toxic on it, that's going to grow and expand also.
Yes.
So now you're molding these children's lives, and you're molding them to be what you think it should be, not exactly what it is or what status quo is.
Correct. I couldn't agree more. I want to bring up, Gail has a comment, and she says, I see that when we were talking about the juvenile things going on, and back to that conversation. She says at the facility she works at, there are youth there that do see and hear things, and they really do, but the doctors are just giving pills and think that's the cure-all.
Yeah, you know, that's bullshit. Sorry about the curse, but you know, I kind of went through that with one of my own sons. My one son had to go for an evaluation over at one of the mental health facilities, and they asked, well, does he hear voices? And I go, well, hold on here. This is a very touchy subject, and this is how I'm going to put it. Both his grandparents were certified mediums, not only through the church, but my mom had documentations from one of the colleges out east that was doing a study on ESP and psychic abilities back then. While she was living in Chicago, she was letters back and forth, partaking with phone calls, and there's documentation saying that she is or was a psychic. So I told him all that information. I told him about our beliefs with spiritualism. So if he is hearing voices, we need to figure out how to determine if it is spirit or if it's a mental illness. And they sat and actually looked at it openly and left it alone.
And I like how you bring that up, because I've gone through that, something similar with one of my children, but then even with myself. And it was recently at work, actually, of all places, and we had to fill out like a mental health questionnaire, and I'm like, I'm screwed, right? Same thing, because you get to those questions, and I finally, I was sitting there for a while, and I looked at my supervisor and I said, listen, you might think I'm crazy, you might not want to hire me, you might want to fire me, but when you say, do you hear voices? Like, what exactly are you asking? And I said, because, and I went through the whole thing, you know, I'm a certified psychic medium. I do hear voices, but they're not telling me to hurt myself. But they're not telling me to jump off a bridge. They're telling me validatable things. And, you know, but just that fear, and I'm sure too for you, the fear in having that conversation, and is this person actually going to listen to what I'm saying, versus freaking out or thinking that we're crazy or your child's crazy. And I think we are fortunate enough to have that positive response.
Yep. Yeah. With my son, we had a positive response. With myself for years, people
Right.
ask questions like that, and I go, I'm good unless I'm arguing with myself. Then if I'm arguing
Right.
with myself, give me some help because something ain't right.
Yeah. Right.
But other than that,
Right.
yeah, I hear voices. I talk to myself. It's part of who I am.
Right. It's just a couple extra voices in your head. Like everybody
Yeah.
else has a conscious voice
Yep.
that's, their internal thoughts. We just have some extras. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
totally
Or
fine.
another thing they ask, well, do you get random racing thoughts? All the time.
Yeah.
Depends on what location I'm in.
Apparently this isn't normal. And it's funny that you see, because my sister had just sent me something, and this is not related to being a psychic medium, but it was about when you're driving at night and you see like the little lines from the lights, the
Yep.
stigmatism. And I laughed because I'm like, actually, I didn't realize that was an issue. I thought that's how everybody saw lights at night. So like,
Me too. Starbursts.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We
I'm
call
like,
it the glare.
that's not normal. Maybe I need glasses. But you don't know it's different. If you don't know, it doesn't mean it's a problem.
Yeah. Sometimes ignorant is bliss.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. That's
exactly.
I would like to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are really open for any kinds of questions, anything you guys want to talk about, ask about. And actually, I think that we both have our decks of cards. So if you're maybe looking for guidance, we could pull a card for you. Bobby's got his naughty deck.
Yeah,
and so
the Rebel deck.
The Rebel deck, which I think is so much fun. So feel free, pop in a question, and we will be back in about 2 minutes.
Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, spirits, and the metaphysical? How about Mothman, Bigfoot, and other cryptids? What about UFOs, UAPs, and other anomalous phenomenon? Then you need to check out Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. We have all that and more. Watch our series, Caps Road Trip, where we travel across the U.S. in search of these phenomena and bring you not only the history of these locations, events, and encounters, but evidence that we capture along the way. Alongside our team of researchers and investigators, you never know who will be joining in on the investigations. Are you interested in Bigfoot in Upper Michigan? Check out Finding Heighten, a series documenting the Sasquatch activity on a very special 80-acre property just outside of Menominee that has been a hotspot since 2012. Are you looking for something to listen to on your morning commute, road trip, or just hanging out? Head on over to our YouTube and check out one of our several podcasts hosted by members of the CAPS team. Topics and shows spanning everything from paranormal, UFOs, metaphysical, cryptids, and more. And if you're into spooky, check out our mini-series, Spirits of Menominee, which documents the paranormal activity of downtown Menominee, Michigan, or Spirits of Macville, where we investigate one very active location. Head on over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button and you won't miss a minute.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. If you are just tuning in, I am being joined by Rezneck from Red Road Paranormal and also a fellow team member of CAPS. Unfortunately, Kristina couldn't make it, which I'm very bummed about, but we will get you guys back on this fall and have you both sit down and talk because you guys are both super awesome.
Well, thank you. I know she appreciates that too.
No, I enjoyed. I got to see you guys up in Ashland. You guys were both up in Ashland, Wisconsin, and Ellie was there too. So it was nice to sit down and talk. And I feel like we talk pretty regularly, and even with Kristina, but we don't get to see each other very often.
Exactly.
So it's nice
in person. It's a whole different scenario. Yeah.
Get that hug in and just sit and visit.
Yep. Yeah, it raises the energy every time I'm around you guys.
No, it's always fun. I always look forward to the next adventure. So I see Lee has a question for the cards. She says, "What time should I head out tomorrow?" Ooh. What time should I head out tomorrow?
I'm just going to say tomorrow afternoon.
Right. Well, you know what's funny is I heard after breakfast, and then I was having this argument with like, I don't think she's a big breakfast eater. So then I'm like, how would she know what is after breakfast? Because she's not like a normal, I don't feel like you're a normal, like get up, just eat breakfast right away when you wake up kind of person. But I would agree, probably mid-morning is kind of what I'm feeling.
Right. Yeah, Lee's coming up to the Bigfoot, Marionette Menominee Bigfoot Convention this weekend.
See, I really should come.
You should.
I got to see what I got going.
I'll be working the door Saturday, taking tickets. Friday night, I'm taking part in a Bigfoot hike that's going to be going on out there. We're taking people out to the hiding adventure.
Nice. How do people find more information if they're looking for more information? CAPS
website, wisconsincaps.com. Everything for the convention should be there. Or I believe there is a Marionette Menominee Bigfoot and Paranormal Convention Facebook page they can look up and get information on too. I would suggest get your tickets in advance and make sure there's a ticket for you. You can buy them right online. And if you're like me, you can store it on your phone. Show me when you get to the door. I can scan it and you're in. And Perfect. If I'm not mistaken, there's a few tickets left for the Bigfoot hike. It's going to be at dark. It's going to be really cool. You got to check it out if you've never gone squatching before. Right.
I think I want to say Barnaby just recently shared a post on the CAPS Facebook page because I do remember seeing something about that. Oh, and Lee says you can also stream the speakers, so that would be great.
Yeah, if you can't make it in person, there's a way to stream them in your own home, see what the speakers are, but it's not as good. It is a great idea, but it's not as good as actually being there and getting to feel the energy and the vibes from everyone. Correct. You know, this is the third year I've taken part in this convention, and it's always been a good time. You know, I've never walked away and said, that was a waste of time. No, I've always walked away going, man, I had a good time. It was a blast. Can't wait till next year.
She says she's squatching with you guys Friday night. I'm jealous. You know, my kids need to just be older so I can do more fun things. Although my oldest was trout fishing today, and I asked where they were fishing, and they said, Ma, we were so far back there, I'm surprised we didn't see Bigfoot. So
way to go.
I bet I could get him to come with.
Yep. I bet you could.
And you're going to have to pardon me while I lean down to get the cards that fell out for Lee, which I think is very interesting. They fell on my floor, so Spirit was not. I got 3 cards, and it's kind of funny how they landed. And I don't use my shaman deck very often, but that's what I'm using right now. And the first one was, yes, my mobile office is my camper.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's a nice mobile office. I can have my clients in here and see. I don't like to have clients in my house. So this is kind of my way to let me have clients in an office setting, but not actually in my home. So yeah, this is my little, I like to call this my seasonal office. So the cards that actually fell out, Lee, when I was shuffling for you, the first one was the arrow. And to me, when I see the arrow in this aspect was that path, right? Straight and true. This is what you're doing. This is what you got going on. And the 2 cards that fell out with it is, the first one was the coyote. And when I got the coyote, I saw the coyote sideways. And for me, whenever I see the coyote, and now everybody's symbols are different. We just had that conversation, Rez, about owls and how ours are different. But for me, when I see the coyote, that's usually, I don't necessarily always say the trickster, but it's almost like somebody is going to be trying to throw a monkey wrench in, but it was sideways, which tells me it's not really going to be a big deal. I feel like a little bump in the road. I don't know, check and make sure you didn't forget anything kind of deal. I just kind of feel like it's going to be more of an annoyance than anything else. And the last card that I got was the crow. And what's interesting is the crow, this sounds so weird. I sit in my yard and talk to the crows all the time. They are like my bestest friends. But when I see the crow, to me, that is always like good things. To me, the crow is very intelligent. The crow is social. And so I just feel like it is going to be a positive experience with the crow coming in. But also, I feel like there is going to be some enlightenment in knowledge. A lot of times when I see the crow, that comes into me as spiritual growth and enlightenment. Oh, she likes to talk to crows too. So see, it's relevant. So I hope that helps, Lee. Hi, Deidre.
All right, Lee, I got one for you. And I think this fits along with that coyote that you were talking about.
Perfect.
So it says, you do you. Stop trying to change people. That shit never works. So that coyote starts getting into your way, turn around and walk away from it. Don't let it bother you. Don't let it ruin your weekend. Just kind of do you. You know you're coming up. You know you want to have a good time. So do it. Don't let anybody ruin that for you, my dear. And that's the best I got for that.
I like that. I love those cards. So anybody else, feel free to shoot us some cards, or we're just going to continue to talk about random topics.
You know, actually, I just started doing a card of a day on my Facebook page.
Did you?
I started
Are you better
today.
At keeping up with it than I? Oh, I'm so bad at keeping up with that stuff.
I'm trying it out. I'm hoping I can keep up with it. You know, I'm usually pretty good with, staying on everyone's programs and sharing them out.
Yes.
So I'm hoping if I just add it to my mix, I'll stay with it. You know, I can't guarantee on the weekends you'll get a card of the day because, I might be traveling. So.
Well, check
But
it
during
out.
the week,
Check
I'm
out
going
the
to try.
card of the day. That's a good thing. I try to do, like on TikTok, I try to do an inspirational video every day. TikTok is so funny. Like, you got to hit it at the right time with your postings. And I haven't been great at getting them on there. I'm trying, friends. I'm trying.
Yeah, see, I don't TikTok. So I have an account. So when people send me stuff, I can look at it, but I don't use it. Just like I have an Instagram account. I don't use it. You want to know what I'm doing?
My cards are falling on the floor tonight.
See, mine are staying in my hands for once.
Oh, no. I wish Spirit would just, like, what I think it is when I am broadcasting or working in my in-home office, you guys always see me, my desk and my space behind me, but then I have another desk set up lower, and that's where I have things. And I didn't bring that out with me today. I didn't have the time. And so now Spirit's like, we're just going to throw your shit on the floor. It's not really nice. But as I was shuffling and thinking about Bobby doing that card of the day, which I think is super awesome, I was thinking about Gail, because Gail said she would take a general reading if you got one. And the card that I pulled for you, Gail, is the Council. And what's interesting about this card is I see this in two ways. The first thing I see when I'm looking at this is I feel like you don't always go to the right counsel when, yes, I agree, Lee, crows warn you. I don't feel like you always go to the right counsel when you are looking for advice, or you take the advice of maybe some people who you shouldn't, if that makes sense. So it's almost a feeling of setting up some boundaries, not letting those thoughts and those things that are really not important come into play from other people. But when I think of and seeing the card as the Council and going, I feel like you need to sit down and really start reconnecting and connecting deeper with Spirit and taking it up to that level. I am seeing the Council as a step above your guides. And I feel like you're needing to make some more connections spiritually. And I feel like you're kind of holding yourself back from some of that growth. And I feel like it's because, there's vulnerable things we have to look at when we're taking that growth. But it's like they're there waiting to help you. And so I see them, and they're almost sitting at like this half moon table shape and just waiting for you to come. It's almost like, come, bring these problems, bring these things you want to work on, set them down with us, and let's work on them. But I feel like right now you're really just still wanting to deal with a lot of things on your own, or are heeding advice in areas that you shouldn't. So I hope that makes sense.
All right, Gail, my dear, my friend, I will be seeing you in October. I was just talking to Gail a little bit ago. So, actually, I have a card for you here. How do I want to put this? I think you've been seeking out too much from those around you, far as their opinions and all that, because the card's telling me you're giving too many fucks. And you just start giving 0. Listen to yourself. You have them answers. You don't need their opinions. Believe in what your guides tell you, my dear.
I love it.
See, these cards are so much fun.
They are fun. I'm going to get myself a deck. I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
Gift to me. You know what, Lee? I went back. I had to refind the council card, and there is not any roses in my card. But what's interesting is this card it's kind of hard to see because it's so light, and my lighting in here is not great when I'm holding stuff up to the camera. But the wings and the feathers that are coming out from the council almost are kind of rippled on the edges like a flower would be, because it had reminded me of a flower. And I wanted to say, yes, there's flowers in there, but when I went back and looked, there's actually not. So
anybody
Mr. Rezneck,
else?
I know. So what else? Tell us about some of the events you got coming up while we wait for people to pop in. Any more questions?
Well, we talked about being up in Marionette for that.
Yes.
The following weekend, I believe it would be June 7th and 8th. I'll be down in Chicago for the Chicago Paracon. It's one of Jack Chavez's events. I'll be down there setting up, doing card readings.
Love it.
After that, in July, I'm booked for the Moonbow Metaphysical event down at Broadhead Manor.
I'll see you there. I'm going to that
one. Awesome. Yep, I'll be there. I have a table set up down there, again, doing card readings. And anytime you guys catch me out in public, feel free to come up and chat. You know, if you want to talk paranormal cryptids, come to the table, sit down, and let's chat. You know, and then also October 19th, I'll be up in the Escanaba area, going to the Dolph Theater. You know, there's some things going on there, a big concert, and I was asked to come up and do card readings, talk paranormal with them guys up there. So as
awesome.
Things further produced with that one, I'll keep you posted on my timelines. So, yeah,
you'll have to let Ellie. You'll have to let Ellie and I know what you are doing for Moonbow, because we are thinking about camping.
Okay.
Because Ellie's also coming down too, so that'll be exciting. Get to see everybody.
Right. Yeah, I'll be staying down there. I'm taking part in the investigation that night, so I will be in the area. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to stay. I almost thought about talking to Bill, see if he had any rooms available at the manor. I'm not sure if he does or not, or if he's even willing to let anybody stay there that weekend.
Right.
So we'll have to get together and figure it out. And once I know a little more on my end, we'll talk about what's available down there.
Do you keep your Facebook up to date with all your events? If people are looking, can they hop on your Facebook page?
Yeah. Anytime I got anything going on or I'm going anywhere, usually within that week, there's a post for it. And then there'll be several posts as it gets closer a lot of times.
Wonderful. I love it. And Lisa, she's going to be at Moonbow too. So I will get to meet you in person, Liam. Looking forward to that.
Lee's a hoot. You know, you'll
love
her.
People that are hoots.
Yeah. You know, she actually hung out with me over at the Great Lakes Paranormal Convention last year in Glen Beulah.
Wonderful. Nice.
You know?
That is the nice thing. And I think, you know, you see two sides of this community. You see sides where there is a lot of competition. And then I think you see sides where people actually just want to connect and educate and network. And it's a lot of fun when you can find those people and click with them.
Yep. Yeah. When you can let go of the drama, don't feed into it.
Yes.
Stay in your own lane, do your own thing. It's a great community.
Right.
But the minute you let those around you start causing drama, sorry, you got to cut a moose like an old school vet because it ain't worth it.
Yep. Nope. You just got to do what resonates with you and don't let anybody tell you any different.
Yep. Follow your path.
Well, I feel like my path was made by a drunk snake, Rez.
Yeah, mine too. But talking about, you know, just following your own way. Top card. Don't fucking force it. Allow that shit to come to you.
Truth. And I like how you say allow that stuff to come to you, but we also have to, so many times, and I like where Spirit's taking this conversation. People will say, I'm just waiting for this opportunity. I'm open to whatever happens. And stuff happens and it knocks on their door and it falls in their lap and it's not packaged how they want it, or it doesn't look how they expected it to. And so we push it off, right?
Yep.
Oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. No, that could not possibly be the opportunity. We have to learn to stop doing that. We have to learn to stop attaching our own expectations on top of what Spirit is giving us.
Yep. Just remember what you're manifesting out there will come back to you.
Yes.
It might not look the same, but the end result is what you're looking for, not what the beginning result is.
Absolutely.
I have to remind myself that every day.
Yeah.
It's just a part of life. And what you concentrate on, what you focus on, you will have.
You will. Absolutely.
It's just the universe will know when it's the right time and you're doing the right things to raise your vibration up to achieve that level.
Yeah. I concur. So nobody else has any questions. I find that really hard to believe. Like, right? I know we have secret watchers, like those of you that just sit back and kind of listen, and that's fine, hey, that's fine, but hop in a question.
Yeah, don't be scared.
Yeah. We don't bite. And even if we did, we couldn't, because you're not sitting next to us.
Right. We're virtual. I only nibble when I'm asked to. You can ask the wife that.
See? No biting allowed. Yeah. We're very friendly people.
I know my cards are naughty, but they're fun.
They are fun. They're fun. So in looking at this and looking at opportunities, how would you tell people to, I guess I want to say test or determine if what falls in their lap or what presents, how can they tell if that is actually meant for them? Like, if it's not looking how it's supposed to, what do you tell them to look for so that they know this is a true?
I'd say take a step back, look at it from an outsider's point of view, not your own personal one, but detach yourself from it. Look at it and feel the opportunity.
Right.
Feel if it resonates within you.
Yes.
Look at it from a perspective point of view that isn't your normal, to see what an outsider would think of this opportunity.
Yes.
And then even then at that point in time, if you really don't know still, talk to your trusted counsel, whoever the closest of your core that you have around you that you can trust with your life. Bring it up in a conversation with them and see what they think.
I like it.
A lot of times your core people know you better than you know yourself.
Yes. And but in that aspect, because in my, I guess I want to say immaturity and not trusting energy yet, and definitely when I was younger, we put ourselves in some circles where we really shouldn't even let those people sit at our table. Yep. So you really, really have to pay attention to, because a lot of people, you might say, hey, I want to accomplish this, or I accomplish this, but you really want people in your circle who are celebrating you, that there's not that jealousy, there's not that ego involved. You have to choose who sits at your table wisely.
Yep. And definitely, if you have a negative Nancy sitting at your table, get rid of them, because all they're going to do is weight you down. That's like attaching a bunch of cinder blocks to your feet and taking a dive in a river. So all you're going to do is sink with that weight.
I agree.
I
see Slug Baby asked, is this streaming on Twitch and YouTube? I don't know what Twitch is. Do you know what Twitch is? I know we're on YouTube. I don't know what Twitch is.
Twitch, I think, is another streaming site, kind of like Rumble and all that. I'm not big on technology.
Right. Yeah. So to answer half of your question, yes, we're on YouTube.
And you're on Facebook too, right?
Yes, and we are streaming on Facebook. So we are streaming on, you might be watching us on the CAP site, you might be watching us on Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive YouTube page or on Soulflight. So kind of depends where you're going. So Lee, I don't know who Mr. Todd is, but I'm going to pull a card. And the card that I pulled that came out it's the Jaguar. But what's really funny about the Jaguar in this card is he's kind of sitting, and he reminds me of the Jaguar from the cartoon version of Jungle Book. And I don't know how old you are, so I don't know if that's going to make sense in my analogy, but it does for me. I'm a Gen Xer. So I see this Jaguar, and he's leaning over. It looks like a smaller moon, but he's very protective over this. But just the demeanor of the Jaguar, I feel like kind of ties in for me for Mr. Todd from the card, is because it is a very seriousness, and I feel like people could see this person and kind of think that, oh, you know, they're grumpy, they have this very intense energy, but yet there's a softness underneath them. And I see that in this protectiveness, I see that fierceness coming out, but then I feel a softness within this person. And I feel like the softness within this person is something that they have gotten better at showing the world, if that makes sense, that they are better at allowing themselves to be vulnerable. And I also see, so behind in the picture, and for whatever reason it's sticking out to me, it's a darker ball of, it's blue, and I don't read auras or energy, so I couldn't tell you what blue means, but it's just this ball of energy coming out, and I feel like that is still some work that they've kind of been putting off doing, and it's heavy, right? It's heavy on their back. They're starting to separate from it, but I feel like there's more, you know, some people call it shadow work or self work that has to be done there. But I feel like they're finally coming to a point where they are going to be able to do that. So I hope that makes sense.
All right. This is for Mr. Todd, she said?
Yes.
All right. Well, the card that came out to me is make better fucking choices. If you're pissed at where you are, then stop taking yourself there. So basically what I'm feeling is that you've had some choices you've been making lately. You haven't been happy with the outcome. You kind of been second guessing yourself on choices. Listen to yourself, listen to your guides, and stay with the true choice. Don't second guess yourself and take that option, because that's where you're burning yourself, my friend. So
wonderful. Well, it has been so much fun talking with you tonight, Rez, and talking to people and answering their questions and learning a little bit more about you and about Red Road Paranormal. Where can people go on to listen to your podcast?
You can catch us right on YouTube, Red Road Paranormal. We also have a Red Road Paranormal podcast page for Facebook and a Red Road Paranormal vodcast page on Facebook. Oh. And that's where you can find us the most on there. If you're looking at wanting to be a guest, you can contact us through either one of the Facebook pages or at redroadparanormal@gmail.com. We're constantly looking for new guests, new faces, new experiences, new stories.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, trying to find topics too that, you know, people, I always tell people, let us know what you want to hear about.
Right.
You know, with topics, reach out, tell us, hey, I've been dealing with this. Can you help?
Definitely. I did have one last card that fell out here while I was shuffling afterwards. I think this is kind of a general for everyone out there listening. Put the fucking phone down. Too much screen time is making you awkward and sad. Go talk to a live person.
That is awesome.
I think everyone needs to live by that one nowadays.
Everybody needs to hear that. You know, and it's sad as we're like, hey, hop on our podcast and listen. And Spirit's like, put down the phone. So take a technology break and then listen to the podcast.
Great. Or put it on speaker, put the phone down and do something while you're listening.
Right. I think we have become too sedative in body and spirit.
Yep.
Technology is amazing. It can be so useful, so beneficial, but it is dumbing us down and making us lazy. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I've said it for a while that, our kids, they're lacking common sense nowadays. If
Yes.
Google or a laptop or a Chromebook doesn't spoon feed it into them, they don't know it.
Right. And could you imagine taking any of our children and putting them in a library where they had to look through the index cards to find the book they wanted?
Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah, they might die. Like, we might never see them again.
Right. They get lost.
Yes.
My kids did go to the library all the way up to a few years ago. For a couple of years, we were going there every week. So they got to know what a library was.
Yes.
But there's a lot of kids out there that, as far as I know,
don't.
never stepped a foot in one.
No. It's, when I first started working with kids long time ago, and they were talking about the need to teach children, for one, how to play, but then, the programs of taking kids out, getting them out to boat or getting them out to fish, and that's all stuff that, my kids grow up doing. I do. And so it's so hard to believe, even back then. Now it's very clearly, you're starting to see it more and more. But how many people don't even interact with nature?
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of it has to do with some of us parents that are working our butts off because of the cost of living. We're not able to take our kids out and do these things and give them experiences like we were given by our elders.
Correct.
So, and it's sad because they're losing it.
They are. And look at where, growing up in Illinois, down by Chicago, I grew up, on the East Coast in towns, near Philly and those kinds of things. So if you don't have anyone to take you out of those spaces, you're not going to get those things. So it is interesting, because we are definitely seeing a need to reteach how to connect. So help somebody learn how to reconnect, to unplug and reconnect.
Yep. Have a conversation with them. Become real friends instead of virtual friends.
Right. I didn't realize, and this is a whole nother topic, I was watching Catfish. It's one of my guilty pleasures, watching Catfish. And there was these people met in a virtual town, which I didn't even know was a thing. And the person was talking about having a job in this virtual town. And I'm like, having a real job is hard enough. I wouldn't want to play a game and then have a job in this virtual town. And it was all very confusing to me.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the old Sims games.
That's what it reminded me of too.
When they first came out, it was cool because of novelty. But the more you spent more time in it, it's like, why ain't I just doing this for myself? Why am I sitting home by myself playing this game when I can be out doing these things
and connect? And but it's sad. It's sad when we realize within a society that is filling a huge void. And then even looking at AI just came out with an AI friend. You don't have a friend, talk to AI. And to me, that broke my heart.
Right.
Connect with people. We need each other.
Well, there's a movie a few years ago where the guy fell in love with his AI on his phone, his Siri or whatever it was. That he talked to it all day, all night long. It was like the only companion he had.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's ridiculous.
It is.
But it happens.
We need to stop being afraid of each other and bring back compassion and connect over small things. You like paranormal? Great. Make some friends that like paranormal things. Just don't be afraid to get out there and connect.
Exactly.
Do you have anything else you'd like to tell anybody, Rez, before we close and boot them all out?
I think we got it all, my dear.
I think so too. And we will let everybody know when we can get Red Road Paranormal back on and include the amazing host, Kristina Bloom. As for me, I've got a lot going on. I just do not have my calendar to rattle it all off, but you can hop over to my website, go under calendar. I do keep that up to date. It'll tell you any events, and I don't, this sounds horrible, and Rez knows, I do not do a lot of events. I, don't have a ton of time. I try to make 3 or 4 a year. So check those out, see where I'll be. I will be on the East Coast this summer. I have a gallery lined up out there, but if you are looking for a reading and you're out on the East Coast, please be sure to hit me up, let me know, and I will see if I can squeeze you in. So thank you so much for joining me tonight, Rez. It was amazing.
Thank you for having me.
It's always fun to just sit and talk and share with everybody.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody, make sure check out Caps, check out Red Road Paranormal, check out Barnaby's podcast, and hop over my website. We'll talk to you soon.